Okay, I'll officially call the meeting to order and ask everyone to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, I wanted to thank everyone that came out in support of Detective Dave Walsh's 1013. It was a great event, and they raised a bunch of money for Dave and his family. And I think even more importantly, it was just a great community event supporting one of our great neighbors, friends, and police officers. It really was just a really wonderful day. Thanks to everyone who came out. Next announcement is Arbor Day. There'll be a tree planting on April 29th at 10 a.m. on Harriman Road, east of Harriman's Peak. We had one check over $25,000, which was actually, yeah, there's only one, which was to Buyer Ford on a 2022 police Ford Interceptor SUV hybrid, which came from the general fund, and it was for $36,984.67. We're also announcing two public hearings. One to consider a local law amending the village code with respect to children's outdoor recreational apparatus and sheds. That's for Monday, May 2nd, 2022 at 7 p.m. Marianne, did you want to give us a little preview of that?
Yeah, what the law right now, sheds and swing sets are required to be in the setbacks. They're required to have building permits. They're required to have planning board approval. Under this law, planning board approval wouldn't be required, or building permits wouldn't be required at all of swing sets. Swing sets, those big play sets, any sets, swing sets or play sets. And then and planning board approval or building permit would not be required of a shed that is doesn't exceed 64 square feet in floor area and 12 feet in height. If it's bigger than that, it has to be reviewed just as it does now. It also provides that they can shed sheds in the recreational apparatus can be in the set. It can be in the setbacks, and they can be located any place on the lot essentially, except they can't be in front of the front facade of the house, or they can't be in the aqueduct buffer. And if they're going to be in a wetlands, they can only be there if they get a wetlands permit. I think that covers most of the points. And one other thing, Brian, I should say, if you look at the law, it amends a few different sections of the law, different parts of the zoning code with definitions and stuff, and then also the building construction chapter of the code, which is when building permits are required. So there's quite a few amendments to do that. It's a longer law than the changes, actually.
Right, and I think this came from residents talking to us that most sheds are actually in the setback now, and they're kind of there, and they shouldn't be. They're against code. And secondly, people were saying that I'm spending $800 on a shed, and I need $1,000 survey and an architect's drawings. It doesn't really make sense. So we're getting around to that. I don't think we really had considered swing sets and play sets, but it actually came up at a recent planning board hearing as well, which kind of said, why don't we, it's kind of the same idea, same principle. So why don't we just kind of do all that together? So I will make a motion to have the public hearing for the local law amending the village code with respect to children's outdoor recreational apparatus and sheds for Monday, May 2nd, 2022 at 7 p.m. in the Village Hall. If I can have a second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Next up, we're announcing a public hearing to consider local law amending the village code to permit video conferencing to conduct meetings also for May 2nd at 7 p.m. this is kind of part of the governor's extension of the meeting laws that were coming out of the pandemic. And we have to pass a local law to enable basically what we're doing tonight, which is the hybrid of a board member appearing via teleconference while the other people are here in person. Before, I guess you could do it, but you actually had to publish their address wherever they were. There was some, open meeting law things that were, kind of odd, but this new one now, the new law requires that we pass this local law. So, anything else you want to say, Marianne?
No, not only did you have to publish the address, you had to let people come to your house. That wherever you were sitting had to be a place where you could meet. So this essentially eliminates that. And there's some more steps that have to be taken, but before the village can even consider it, they have to say that they would not permit video conferencing in those circumstances.
I do think that it's a nice option for people that can't come out in person, that they can, access the meeting and interact. It's something we've been talking about for years. We didn't really have the technology that we finally do, which I think is a big plus, not only for this board, but for planning board, zoning board, ARB. I think those are all the major boards can now do this once we pass this law. I mean, we can do it now under the executive orders, but this was let us do it continuing. So public hearing to consider local law amending the village code to permit video conferencing to conduct meetings. That's also on Monday, May 2nd, 2022. I'll make the motion if I can have a second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We had one piece of correspondence, which is from Peter Bernstein. I thank us for the village board priorities. He thought one thing that was missing was addressing our housing affordability issues. And he hopes that despite this admission, the village will continue to push for affordable units that will increase our economic and racial diversity and allow residents who love Irvington to continue to live here. Peter, I think, the presentation later probably directly addresses your concern. Only so much we can do as a board if people don't want to build affordable units, but public comments. Yes.
Hi, my name is Nancy Adler. I live at 91 Riverview Road. I've been there for 38 years, and I've been on the Irvington Volunteer Ambulance Board for 12. I hope that tonight, as the board or while the Baltic partners address their plan to increase density of our village, that they will also consider a plan to assist our Irvington Volunteer Ambulance Board. On Saturday, April 9th, and on Sunday, April 18th, Irvington had no ambulance service available, except through mutual aid. This can lead to a catastrophic delay and outcome in a life-threatening situation. Our ambulance corps has never received financial help from this village. However, if the density of our village is going to be increased, and if EMS does become a recognized vital service, which the state is now pressing for, the village will have to provide for our ambulance corps to have better equipment. Our ambulances are 25 and 23 years old. Our AEDs are 21 years old. And I think if they're going to be meeting with a builder that will be increasing the density, this is the time to consider these costs that are going to come down on the village and maybe have the builder assist us in paying these future costs. Thank you.
Now we'll move on to consent agenda, Larry. I'll approve the consent agenda. Anyone give me a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So Larry, the presentation by Wilder Balter regarding the multifamily development at 76 North Broadway. Give you a few minutes to prepare yourself.
Yeah, so if you want to come up, we just need you to be logged into the Zoom meeting. So you have your, presentation will be up on the screen, so.
Technology makes everything easier and harder.
Second. So you should be able to share your screen. Okay.
My personal push here.
No, you can just talk. It's kind of an area, Mike. It's not, yeah.
Good evening, Jim Wendling from WVP Development. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Okay. Thank you for having us tonight. I'm joined by Rich Williams, principal with Insight Engineering, and Texter Nam, the owner of Architectural Work Office. We're here to discuss the proposed development at the preliminary stage of 76 North Broadway. Just briefly, WPP Development has been in business for over 30 years in Westchester County. Our office is in Chappaqua. Up on the screen, you'll see a few developments just to give you a sense of what we built. 6 of the 7 of those are in Westchester County. There's a mixture of mixed income, affordable, and market rate, and of size between 64 units and 380 units. And that just gives you a sense of what we built. There's a lot of variety there, mid-rise, high-rise, adaptive reuse in the upper left-hand corner is Chappaqua Crossing, the original Reader's Digest building. We currently have 1,250 units under construction, mostly in Westchester County. Half of those are affordable and half of those are market rate. We are a fully integrated real estate development company, which means we build solely for ourselves and we manage our portfolio. So we currently manage about 35 rental communities, all of which we've developed and built. That totals about 3,500 units. We've also built a lot of for sale communities that we don't manage, obviously, but the for sale condominiums, for sale affordable condominiums, and single family subdivisions. So we've done everything in Westchester County and the Hudson Valley over the past 30 years. A few things I just want to, why don't you just go to the second slide? Here on boards are used. Yeah. Well, that just gives you a sense of the communities we manage. It doesn't show the for sale communities that we've built over the past 30 years, but what you see there in blue is what we manage. What you see there in yellow are developments under construction that we will manage as well. We're currently building in Tarrytown, Peekskill, 2 developments in New Rochelle, Lewisboro, Putnam County, and Glens Falls, New York as well. I think it's important to impress upon the board to use this opportunity to say that we believe in healthy and sustainable housing. We have built LEED certified developments. In fact, we completed one of the first ones in the Hudson Valley in Cold Spring, New York. Completed that in about 2009, 2010. We are working on all electric, low energy buildings. We are soon to start a 41 unit affordable passive house development. We are installing geothermal heating and cooling at 109 unit affordable development in Tarrytown. We have been installing solar on our building since probably 2009, 2010 for the common area electric when the configuration and layout and electric demand requires it. We are now installing EV stations and looking frankly in our portfolio to see how we can put the infrastructure in for EV stations going forward. The world has certainly changed over the past 12 to 18 months with respect to that. We also believe in a collaborative approach with working with the village and the public and the local stakeholders and elected officials to get to an end result that we're both proud of, both our development team and the community at large, understanding what the need is of the community and trying to work with them during the approval process to get to an end result that we're proud of. We're really excited about this site. It's obviously a beautiful site. We think it creates an opportunity to create meaningful affordable housing in Irvington. We understand the property was rezoned in May of 2021. That the board passed a resolution supporting affordable housing in June of 2021. We've had preliminary conversations with the county and the state about this site. Everyone sees it, I think, as a great opportunity for affordable housing. What we're proposing at this preliminary stage, what you'll see is 65 units, a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. We are proposing income averaging, which is a new state program, which allows you to open up the band of affordable housing between 30 and 80% of AMI, area median income. And what that means is it allows more families the opportunity to live there at different income levels. We first got involved in the site in July of last year. We have not closed on the property. We're in the due diligence period. And we spent a lot of time on the configuration and massing layout to come to a result that we're ready to show you. Texter and Rich will walk you through that. But a few things we'll point out is, one, we're showing underground parking, which is more expensive and maybe typically wouldn't have been done in such a site, but we think this site warrants that, and it's the right design for this neighborhood. We worked hard on creating interesting massing and roof lines and window configuration to create what we think is a really beautiful community on this site. There's amenity space, both interior and exterior, a courtyard setup. And we're also working on preserving the mansion, and you'll see that in the layout as well. So Rich and Texter will do a better job than me of walking you through the plan. So I'll start with Rich, and then Texter will talk about the architecture.
Thanks, Texter. So we're talking about 76 North Broadway. It is a 4-acre site that sits on the intersection of North Broadway and Strawberry Lane. Looking up at the screen in front of you, North Broadway is on the left-hand side of the page and runs north-south. Strawberry Lane runs east-west and forms the southern border to our property. I'm going to work from right to left or from east to west. What you see on the So starting on the right-hand side of the page, what you see in light brown is the existing mansion, and to the right of that in gray is the existing driveway. It comes down. What you don't see, because this is a proposed plan, is attached to the existing mansion, but to the left of it is an existing commercial building. And as you move farther left or west, an existing parking lot, which is a surface parking lot that sits basically on the leftmost building in brown. That's the one that runs north-south or up and down. As Jim mentioned, and Texter is going to show you in some 3D renderings in a minute, a lot of attention was paid to the topography of the site and trying to work the development with the topography by stepping it and creating strategic roof lines so that the massing was minimized. It was also designed to maintain the view of the mansion, as well as the mansion's view looking to the west. You will see that we do have 3 curb cuts. One is going to be to serve the existing mansion, and the other 2 are necessary because, as Jim mentioned, all of the parking, which you don't see, is underground. So we have 2 entrances to access the different levels of that parking so that you're not looking at cars, but you're looking at a residential type of development. And with that, I will turn it to Texter, who's going to show you the really fancy pictures.
Thank you, Rich. So as shown in the rendering, design provides approximately 220 feet of landscape area and a cluster of 2-story building facing Hudson River. Its parallel direction to North Broadway. The cluster of the small units is standing out the glimpse of various single-family residential houses up in the hill from the North Broadway. As the distance reached to 300 from the North Broadway, the collection of building gradually grows to a 3-story cluster. This cluster follows the natural slope and gradually rolls up toward the mansion while maintaining the middle area open. So I'm gonna go to our next slide. Unlike a typical cookie cutter affordable housing development, these various small volumes and undulating roofscapes are intended to offer a assemblage of the small house, which fits well in the context of a single family residential district here. Also, the design offers the middle courtyard, as you can see here, which resembles the function of the piazza for the community. This open space intends to reinforce the healthy, friendly living of the community, where everyone can look out each other at and look after children and the community members. Although this perspective view is a little wider than the actual view, we can read that the cluster of volume is laid parallel to the Strawberry Lane, pulling up the natural slope. If we laid out the building parallel to the North Broadway, it would have been saved the construction cost a lot, but it could have blocked the view toward and from the mansion. So our plan is to restore and preserve the historical narrative of mansion, and at the same time, try to find the harmonious way for certain existence of the multifamily community with the mansion by bringing this undulating geometry and certain color that celebrate with each other. Also, we put a tremendous effort to put all the cars on the ground so that the site is free of parking at the scene and offer a very safe and comfortable walkable landscape there. This slide is viewed from the front yard of the mansion looking down. What has been better than the typical plaza is that instead of having a typical open space, we'll have a small scale landscape device such as planter, garden, grass area, and benches, and all to ensure the very calm, peaceful place for the community. The layout maximizes the opportunity for the view to Hudson River. And so also I want to point out the undulating roofscapes fits very well with natural scene, while ensure the scaling down approach of the size of the building. The last slide shows the bird eye view. You can see summarized overall concept of this open courtyard in the middle and open access to and from the mansion from North Broadway. Also community-oriented layout that surrounds the courtyard, preservation of the slope, no cars whatsoever above the ground level. The layout that respects to celebrate the existing mansion of the preservation. And finally, the very small scale approach, small scale assemblage that fits into the scale of this single family residential district. I think this development will be a great addition to the community, pleasant architectural piece addition to the neighborhood.
And thank you. And just one thing to add, this slide shows it probably better than any. A lot of thought went into respecting the North Broadway frontage. The code encourages it, requires it, and you can see how if you step it back, we're going to be maintaining that existing vegetation.
So the slides we have, that's our presentation for this evening. On the board, want to kick off?
Yes, I have questions about, it's how many units?
65 units is shown there.
65, and how many parking spaces on the ground?
Village code requires, I think, 100 or maybe 102. Yeah. Comply with village code.
For the mansion to use for housing.
The housing we see ultimately being preserved for housing. That's not part of the 65 unit.
So the mansion is not included in the 65.
Yeah. We tried, we looked at that, we walked it a bunch of times, it's complicated, and we just couldn't get there, frankly, with fire code and emergency and elevator and everything else. It's just, we think that's the right use for it, frankly.
So the mansion won't be part of the affordable housing project?
Correct.
It'll be separate. You envision one of the big issues, obviously, on Broadway, existing conditions is traffic. What do you see the impacts of this type of development on traffic?
Your code contemplates the analyses we're gonna have to do as part of the site plan review to demonstrate how we will mitigate any traffic increases, and we'll be providing those studies as part of the site plan process.
And how about with, I think it's a mix, what, do you have a rough breakdown of the number of 1, 2, and 3?
I do, yes, yeah. We're averaging 2, and our current breakdown is, bear with me, 14 ones, 14 threes, and 27 twos for an average of 20, for an average of 2 bedrooms across the 65 units.
And based on your other projects, especially places like Chappaqua that are very similar, what is the typical school demand created by a project like this?
I don't have the number with me. I wouldn't want to throw that out. I will have that at the next meeting. We keep historical data of our projects and compare that against the Rutgers multiplier. And I'd rather not throw out a number.
All right, sure. And I think also, I think if you're going to create another conceptual drawing, you can do one from Broadway looking. Probably be a helpful one. I can obviously see the vegetation. Is the vegetation that's shown on the bird's eye view, is that what's currently there? Or more or less?
That's correct, yes. Yeah, we didn't add or change or modify, correct.
So if you were standing on the west side of Broadway, looking at the property, the view, what, that much of that you're saying?
It's heavily actually treed area, and you'll see a little glimpse of the top of the mansion.
I'm sorry, but I didn't actually hear the breakdowns of the apartments, that there were just 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms.
Yes. 14 ones, 27 twos, and 14 threes.
Okay,
Average of 27, average of 2 bedrooms across the 60.
okay. And can you just talk us through what the affordability breakdowns are for these units?
Yes. Income averaging here, which we're doing at a few of the developments you saw on the first slide. It's a relatively new state program. I'll give you ranges on the 1s, 2s, and 3s. Between 30% and 80% area median income, the rents. You look for the rents?
I'm looking for income eligibility and rents.
Let me start with rents. I have that right here. Rents would be roughly $720 to $1,900 for 1 bedroom. 2 bedroom would be $1,150 to $2,290, and a 3 bedroom would be $1,000 to $2,700. Again, depending on 30%. So there's a few units set aside for 30% AMI, 40% AMI, and you stack it throughout the 80. The max incomes, again, I'll go to 1s, 2s, and 3s. Don't quote me exactly on these numbers, but it's roughly 28,000 to 76,000 for the 1s, 34,000 to 76,000 for the 2s. That's a mistake on the 76. It would be in the mid-80s, and then 40,000 to 107,000 for the 3s. And that's adjusted for household size, and
that's the maximum income.
that's the maximum income. Yeah, so we would have units, we would average 60% across the 30 to 80 band, but there would be units at 30, up to 30%, 40, 50, 60, 70, and 80.
And we would be able to, I guess I want to just get a sense of, I'm not so familiar with the income averaging, so I would be curious to see sort of what that looks like in a typical development.
Like how it's spread out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, the next, before you begin, we kind of show a chart that breaks it out so you can see that.
Driveway curb cuts on Strawberry Lane, are you anticipating other improvements or anything else that needs to be done to Strawberry Lane?
Well, as our traffic engineer gets into the analysis, we'll know more. Right. We're gonna have to see how the traffic bears out. And if any improvements are needed.
I have a question. I have a feeling that you're most likely going to say it. You'll come back and address this, but I want to put it out there so that it's, it's something that at least that I'm interested in looking forward as to. Because we've been involved on the delegate to this improvement plan that's been going on. And one thing is that this property from a pedestrian point of view is landlocked. In other words, you have to walk in either direction for quite some time to get to a light where you can cross, but there are no sidewalks on the east side of Broadway. Have you thought about anything about how the people living there will access things on foot?
We started kicking that around. We have, you started it with, we'll get back to you on that. Yes, it's certainly something to consider for this development. It's in such close proximity to so many things. We'd like to create a good pedestrian experience.
Right, because if you just drop it in as now, I don't know how people, I don't mean that in a facetious way, I literally do not know how you would walk anywhere.
Yep. Yes, and like we could easily put a sidewalk on this property, but what are we doing with that, right?
Right.
So, yes, it's something that we do have to, we've started having those conversations. Don't have a better answer for you at this point.
Mark, do you have anything?
Thanks, Brian. No, the sidewalk was an issue that I had for pedestrian access. The other was, because I didn't hear what the function of the restored mansion would be. I understand it's not housing, but is that office, museum? Is it up for the grabs of what it is? And the third question was to talk about the 221-foot setback. And I guess that's it.
Sure. The mansion we see as housing, just, single family housing being restored, improved. The 221 that we're showing, Mark, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah,
But
okay.
before you get into that, I'm sorry. What do you mean by single family housing? You mean it'd be a single residence, or it's a duplex, or a single residence, or what?
A single or a two family residence. When we get further into the approval process, we'll kind of iron that out, but we're not proposing to be part of the development site. It'll be separate from that.
Marianne, is there an issue with that in the zoning?
Yeah, there could be. Because single family housing is not a permitted use in that zoning. We did talk a little bit about that before. That could be a problem. What they wouldn't have to do is it's a little tricky, because what you'd have to do is subdivide the property and rezone that parcel to permit a single family house or a two family house. But then you're losing a bunch of areas, so then your site capacity would probably go down. So it's a little tricky. I don't know we talked a little bit to them about it. I don't know whether they've got more specific thoughts about what they're doing, but.
And also, Marianne, it seems to me the setbacks would be crazy in that area. I mean, you would essentially not be able to have normal setbacks in between the building and the rear or the east facade of the multifamily units.
Yeah, there are definitely zoning issues with it. The most, to me, the most significant one being the use. It's not, the board specifically, is rezoning that area. Single family housing was not one of the uses permitted.
Is it too early to talk about what kind of pathway there is? Because obviously it'd be really great for that mansion to be restored and put to use constructively.
Yeah, that's an issue in this.
We're open to the discussion. That's part of the reason why you heard Jim say we haven't made up our mind. We were aware of the zoning limitations. It's a conversation we want to have with the village. We've also been struggling with the idea of subdivide versus not subdividing, recognizing that it certainly does create zoning complications. There are other means beyond subdivisions, such as commercial condos. It can be used so that we could separate the mansion without actually having to go through a subdivision process. And maybe that takes those zoning complications off the table. But truthfully, we're still taking those ideas around internally. And we do plan on making the village part of those discussions. As Wilder Balter mentioned, they are very good at public outreach and soliciting input from municipalities they work in.
And Mark, that's adding to what Rich said, it is a good segue to the 221-foot line you see there.
Thank you.
If we think it's important, which we do, to preserve the mansion, that means a few different things. It means preserving the interior or restoring the interior, and it also means the grounds around it and trying to create a great site, both for the development site as well as the mansion. So what the 221 allows us to do, again, we would understand this as part of conversations, but it allows you to pull the 3-story buildings slightly away from the mansion, which just creates a better environment in and around the mansion and and helps the view corridor that we're trying to maintain at the mansion as well. So that's done, not for a higher unit count, not for more density. It's done purely for a better configuration, both for the development site and for the mansion.
So just so everyone's clear, could you be clear about where the current zoning has the front yard setback?
So are you referring to the front yard setback or the Broadway setback?
I'm talking to the Broadway is the front, to me is the front yard setback, but okay, the Broadway setback.
So I believe there's 75-foot front yard, but then there's a separate setback, correct, Dexter?
Which is 250.
Which is 250.
Right, okay, so I just want to be clear so people understand that we're talking about, less than a 30-foot difference in placement of the buildings. And the Board of Trustees is able to discuss allowing that for any number of what's seen as benefits, public benefits or benefits to overall. So just to be clear, it's not a done deal, but it's not a lockout either. It's something that we can discuss, and certainly something like sidewalks and other kinds of potential amenities would help as well in that discussion.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll just add, this is a good slide to see. If you could picture those two buildings parallel to Strawberry Lane, 29 feet closer to the mansion, I think you can see kind of what our intent was.
And just for comparison purposes, that building that is between the 221 there, that is essentially on top of the existing parking lot. So it's a good frame of reference for where the building comes out to if you're out there.
Right, and I have to say, I really support the concept of eliminating surface parking. So I'm very happy to see that integral to your design.
The 65 unit number, is that a number that fits in with the existing zoning that the board wrote? Or is that number, I think Mary Ann might have been implying that number might be high if you remove the mansion from the affordable project?
Yeah, we're currently running through the site density calculations now. And we do want to have the opportunity to sit down with the building inspector and review them, just to make sure he concurs. But initially, we were pretty close to that number, and we're going through refining it. We just want to talk about the zoning, make sure we're looking at it correctly.
Board. Otherwise, I guess before I open it up to anyone in the audience, just kind of framing where we are. This is really the first we've seen this project as well. They did reach out to Larry, myself, and Larry, and said, "Are you really interested in an affordable housing project or not?" And then kind of sent us, let us know the other projects they worked on, including one at Chappaqua, which is probably one of the more similar types of developments in the same type of community. And our message was, we want this to come, we don't want to talk to you about it without you telling the community about it, and getting the feedback from the community, because that's ultimately who's going to live with this forever. So that's where we are tonight. So we are not even in the first inning yet. I'd say we're probably the first spring training game, maybe, if we continue baseball analogies, which I typically do with building sites for some reason. And so, I think that just to frame it for people that, if you couldn't be here tonight to see the presentation, you haven't missed it. A, you can watch it again. B, this is a preliminary presentation without any feedback, obviously. And if you remember the process for the rezoning, how much public input we took and how much that changed from when we started it to where we ended up. So that's how I'll frame this. And with that,
And
I'd love to know what-
Brian, can I ask one
Okay.
question? Yeah,
Sure.
on this drawing, on the bird's eye drawing, what's the gray block stuff in between the buildings? What does that look like on the ground? What is it? Do you know my question?
So I think what you're referring to is the walkways in between the buildings, which this kind of gives you an idea. Those are the walkways in the courtyard areas.
Aren't you
Yeah,
talking
they would
about
be
the roof
pavers.
area?
No, I'm talking about what's in between the in between, I don't know. If you take the group of buildings, the ones closest to Broadway, there's like a rectangle of buildings, and in between it, there's some gray space. What is that physically?
That's just a flat roof area.
Oh, this flat roof, okay. Okay,
In between the buildings.
I think that the drawing she's going back to is one of the early ones where you had the both the.
I think this was the one.
I think
no, this is the one, no, this is the one I'm talking about. Yeah, exactly, that stuff.
That's a flat roof area. We're contemplating to install a photovoltaic panel. And the photovoltaic panel will be a little bit hidden by all this rich roof with a better look.
That's where we would install solar panels. I'm not sure if you were able to hear.
Okay, got it.
What about any other environmental, like what typically have your builds been?
I mean, we've done, like I said, it's something we believe in. We think we've been somewhat ahead of the curve on this over the past 15, 20 years. We have done LEED certified communities. We're doing LEED certified communities right now. That means a healthier building envelope, better insulation, better windows, controlling the indoor air quality. We're doing a 109 unit affordable development in Tarrytown, geothermal heating and cooling, which is not very common. We are about to start a 41 unit affordable passive house development in Greenberg. I'm not sure if there's been affordable housing passive house built in Westchester County. Low flow fixtures, low VOC paint, low VOC building materials. It's something that our owners really believe in, and we as a company do, and we've been really practicing that for the past 15, 18 years now.
Yeah, there's no other questions from the board. Why don't we, Larry, why don't we?
Well,
move the
that does
mic over?
actually, hang on, Brian, I'm sorry. What were they envisioning for this project besides a solar array on that front group of buildings hidden behind the roof line? But were they thinking about any sort of geothermal, or is that to wait until more site analysis, geophysical analysis?
Yeah, that's kind of right, Mark. We're exploring everything. We'll look at all different options. We see this as an all-electric building, potentially geothermal, potentially passive house construction. We're going through the analysis right now, but it's certainly practices that we're doing right now on other developments, and we want to continue to do in Westchester County and throughout. So it's a little early to make any commitments, but we will look at all of that, definitely.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so if anybody from public wants to speak, you just state your name, that'd be helpful.
My name is Stephanie Faber. I live on Strawberry Lane. And my question is, will this site require you to blast? Will this be a blast site?
We didn't complete all of the geotechnical analysis yet. We don't anticipate that. We've looked at previous studies done. I certainly can answer that black or white in a few months or probably next month, but I don't know, but I don't expect that based on what we've studied so far.
How would you get the underground parking in without blasting?
It would be through traditional excavation means, again, we have to understand through the geotech reports where the ground ledge is based on voltage flow and investigations. They would traditional excavation. Used to install the apartment.
Thank you, because, blasting would be, a huge concern for our neighbors, would affect our homes.
You have to do a blasting survey. We don't like to blast if we don't have to, so we certainly understand.
And also, the asbestos and the other pollutions, in the air, so.
Well, right, so when we demo the building, we would have to have professionals on site to analyze the air quality. We'd have to abate the building before we demo it and follow all state regulations on that.
Okay, thank you.
For anybody who's watching at home and wants to speak, we will get to you after the traffic folks who came out in the torrential rain later. First.
I just have one question. Could you just show me, Nancy Adler, Riverview Road, could you just show me on the map how ambulances and fire trucks could get to the most northern group of units? Because it looks like there's a courtyard in front of them. I don't see a pathway behind them. And I know our ambulance goes up Strawberry Lane frequently to get to Abbott House, and that is really narrow. And it looks like your pathways are even narrower. Could you just explain what our access would be?
Sure, and we're looking forward to meeting with the fire department to.
Yeah, I'm not on the fire department.
No, I know that, right, I just, and that's certainly a key part of the conversation. My father did over 40 years in the New York City Fire Department, so emergency service is very important to me and our company. Rich, you want to talk about the preliminary study?
Sure. We envision you'll actually be able to get access, vehicular access above, right where Texas is moving ahead in. Those buildings that are running from lower left-hand corner to the upper right are single buildings. So once you enter on the ground floor, you'll be able to get anywhere in the building either through elevator or hallway access.
So the fire department could reach their hoses from the front all the way to the back of the structure, is that what you're saying?
This will comply with the fire code and require separation distances and multiple distances, yes.
Okay, and there are elevators in it for EMS access?
Correct. Who's next?
My name is Asif Tracht. I'm a Strawberry Lane resident. So what is the anticipation population? What's the numbers? How many people can live in this development? At a maximum, let's say.
I don't have those numbers with me right now. I can have them at the next time, but one bedroom typically has 2 persons. A 2-bedroom will have anywhere from 2 to 4 persons, and a 3-bedroom, 3 to 5 is typically the range.
All right, so somebody can do the math quickly, probably right now. It's not me, so but.
If you have 2, if you have 2 in the 1-bedroom, or in the 2-bedroom and 5 in the 3-bedroom, you get 206.
There are specific numbers that we have from pre-communication.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm. So where is the entrance to the underground structure here?
Entrance to the underground parking.
There are 2 underground parking entrance. One's coming from the first one to a bottom level, the second coming in here and to the upper parking level. Both are underground.
And both of those entrances occur before any of the residents. Strawberry Lane. Intentionally to try and make sure people aren't driving by the joint houses.
Okay, so you also mentioned that you did Chapel Crossing project, right?
Yes.
Yeah, which part of it? I'm just curious. The Reader's Digest building or all of it?
No, so there's a developer that has the 117-acre master community.
Right.
We have the existing Reader's Digest complex and turned it into 64 housing units. That's our only, and we moved our offices there, but
Right.
that's our only part of that development.
Okay, which was just basically interior, mostly interior work.
Yeah, no, we restored the facade.
Right,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. There's no building there.
Not new
You didn't build, there's no construction. Right,
Not new construction, correct.
right,
It's just an example of work that we've done.
right. I mean, the building was, the building was there. It just moved from Chappaqua, so I know the place very well.
15, 18 years or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, clearly, since we live right behind this, the mansion, our house is right behind those top, the trees over there on top. So there's a concern, right? The volume, just the sheer volume of people moving and through the street, the Strawberry Lane. It's a narrow street. I mean, it's a concern. So that clearly, I mean, I don't know. I think I'm too new to know about other concerns in the village right now. But that's all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Igor Galankar, also 20 Strawberry Lane. So were also involved in the construction of the two Chappaqua buildings at the station in Route 117, or is it somebody else? So you did Chappaqua Crossing?
That's the only development.
And how many units are there if you have any units?
64.
64. That's pretty large development compared to this.
It's a pretty large development.
No, is this the same area?
It was an adaptive reuse of an existing building. Original
I'm
reuse.
talking about the two-story buildings that are around next to the Whole Foods market. Are these yours?
No.
Or you just did the mansion
Just
itself?
the cupola building, which is, you can see it from the sawmill.
Yeah.
It's the only building.
Right. So what is the height of the mansion?
Height of this
Yeah.
mansion?
How tall is it?
Do we have the mansion?
I don't have the exact number, but it must be somewhere around 40 something.
40?
40 something, we don't have the exact number.
And what is the height of the two-story building that's the closest to the mansion?
Well, it's 3 stories up top and
It's
2 stories down below, which is what the zoning code allows for.
Okay, that just lovely. So what is the height of the three-story building next to the mansion?
3-story is maximum 35 feet, but clearly that sits the lower level than the mansion, the lower grade.
And the roofs that I see, frankly, your rendition, I don't know how close it is to reality, but it's not particularly aesthetically pleasing. And they are actually, the Irvington is a nice village. So I must say.
Okay, thank you.
And you're very welcome. And particularly the roofs, okay, that you have the gray areas and you're going to have solar panels in the bottom. But I'm not sure what you're going to have in the top buildings. All good.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Luke. I live on Strawberry Lane as well. We just moved from Hastings on Hudson, and my offices are in Dobbs Ferry at 145 Palisades. So I'm pretty familiar with this area and sort of what can be done with space in terms of doing something sustainable that's not going to have this kind of environmental impact and community impact. This seems like something that I just shudder when I think about the amount of construction that's going to be going on Broadway, the effect that it's going to have on that road. I don't know if you guys have ever driven up and down Strawberry Lane, but you can barely fit 2 cars next to each other. So imagine you've got cement trucks going up and down it. It's incredibly steep. I'm not sure what the grade is, but you're thinking, the truck's going to have so much energy to get up that hill that it's going to be belching smoke. I can just imagine. My friend, it took him a year to dig out an addition on his house because the granite or something, the stone around here, as you probably can imagine, is incredibly strong. We're going to be blasting, I guarantee it, to build an underground parking lot. I mean, it just makes me terrifying thinking about that much construction going on. Broadway itself is already, there's a lot going on there in terms of cars speeding down. To me, that's the heart of this town. I know, people from here might think that Main Street is, but it feels like between Main Street and Sunnyside is really the heart of this town. And there's so much going on there in terms of historical and Fargo Lane and everything happening. It's upsetting and sad to imagine this happening. And construction projects like this take longer, more expensive, have much more impact than you can ever imagine. So we're here for 5 years. We want to stay here for a long time, but I can only imagine what this would do. It would just kind of drive us away, I think. Just so you know, I've got a car that scrapes the bottom every time it makes that right. And every Prius I see go up that hill, bottoms out on that hill. So you guys would imagine you'd have to completely rebuild that entire thing, take down a bunch of those 300-year-old trees. And so, there's a lot here that concerns me just as a resident. Thank you.
Yes, a person.
It's Peter Buderi. I live on Meadowbrook Road across Broadway from the project. Just a couple of small factual questions and things I think you might have said, but I wanted to make sure I understood them. The courtyard between the two three-story buildings, how wide is it? And are the buildings 35 feet high above that courtyard level?
The first, the bottom open courtyard is about 30 feet. And, what's the second question? Yeah.
Well, I was referring to the courtyard that runs east-west, which is between the two, right?
I don't remember exact dimensions, but it's easily probably about 50 feet.
That's facing that height.
Right. Okay.
Right, and the height of the building above that level, or that's a stepping courtyard?
The tallest one is 35 feet.
35 feet above that level, okay. Okay. What's the FAR of the entire complex without the mansion?
It's a 0.4 FAR 4.
Okay, so I take it that means you're going to be asking the board for that extra 0.1.
With the affordable housing benefit.
Okay. Do I understand correctly that the 221 feet is your proposed reduced setback from the front of the two-story wing, block to Broadway instead of 250? Is that what that number was?
Yes.
Okay. And is this an all rental project?
Yes.
And I guess just as a request for future presentation, if you guys were to show a site section in both directions down to Broadway and then across the other way, especially if it could include some of the houses across Strawberry, I think it would be very informative.
Great, thank you.
I'm Josh Freeman. I just want to say generally, I don't think the people of Irvington are opposed to affordable housing in Irvington. I think actually most people in Irvington support the idea of having affordable housing in town. This is, and even using, and I understand this is a really difficult property to develop. It's been difficult for the owners to sell and for something to happen here. This does seem a little out of scale though for the village and for the town. And I'm glad that this is just a very preliminary meeting. I hope eventually this thing, I mean, clearly you guys have done great work all over New York. The examples you showed, everything looks pretty spiffy. Nothing looks shabby. Everything looks good. And Irvington, I think, would be pleased to have something really future looking and long-term that was affordable housing, but just not something of this density in this place. That's really all I want to say.
Peter Bernstein.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hi, this is Peter Bernstein on North Cottonette Street. Really glad to see these plans and glad that Wilder Balter is wants to be in partnership with us to develop this property. I mean, those of us who are familiar with housing development and affordable housing development in the county know that Wilder Balter is, a great partner for the village. They do it right. They listen. Just, some of the ideas we're seeing today, the underground parking design is brilliant. The open spaces, the maintaining of the mansion, which was an issue that some folks, were concerned about. So yeah, I just couldn't be, happier. As the previous speaker said, I think, Irvington needs affordable housing. Irvington is ready for affordable housing. And this looks like a, great opportunity to improve the village. So, thanks and looking forward to, moving along. I'm sure there'll be, lots of questions to answer and lots of tweaks that will need to be made. But, as an opening salvo, this looks like a great project. Thank you.
Pat Mulvey.
Good evening. I'm Pat Mulvey. I live on 11 Willow Street in Irvington. I'm married to Michael Kornman. And we both are very, very strong advocates for affordable housing in Irvington. We need to increase our diversity in our community. I'm very impressed with this drawing as a preliminary drawing. I think it's great to have plans to develop this open space. I think the underground parking is just perfect because we don't want to continue to be looking from North Broadway up these hills to see nothing but parking cars. And that it might be LEED certified or the builder's LEED certified, I think is a great plus. And I think Irvington really seriously needs to consider this because I think it's a great first drawing and first discussion. Thank you very much.
I have a follow-up, Brian. My follow-up is actually, since they're not sure about the blasting, is there any way that we can say absolutely no blasting? Is that can we build that in, that it's not allowed?
We do have rules that I don't know, Mary Ann, you know off the top of your head how much blasting can actually be done. It's actually, we actually had issues in the past, so it is fairly limited. We actually, Nancy and I know well the blasting and the hammering. It's not even just blasting, it's the jackhammering that goes on forever. And both of those I think are limited by our code, Larry. So they are, yeah. Mary Ann, I don't know if you do have that information handy.
You know what, I can look in the code, just a minute, Brian. I don't remember. It doesn't come up much. Let me double check.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge concern that the shock effect that it could potentially have on some of our homes. And I would equate it to getting into a car accident where, you have this damaged car and maybe, yes, insurance can fix it, but, nobody wants to purchase a damaged car and never quite works the same. And the value goes down because of the damage, even if it's been remediated. And that's my worry for our homes that are surrounding, this potential blast site. And so
my first experience was when they were blasting behind the high school. Riverview Road is downhill from there. They actually came and inspected my house. I live in close to 100-year-old house.
Yeah.
And they said, they took pictures of my garage and everything, my foundation. And then when they started blasting and I had huge cracks occur in my garage,
wow,
they came back and said, well, that wasn't from the blasting, it's from something else.
That's crazy.
Now, I did have $35,000 worth of drainage work I had to do because all my pipes underground were clay pipes.
Oh,
They
God.
also cracked. So when I replaced all my clay pipes that had cracked, and my house was constantly flooded, they repaired the driveway and the garage floor. And, I don't live with that anymore, but yes, it could end up costing you money if you live in an old house. And the blasting to my house from behind High School Road was much further away than this is going to be from your house.
Yeah.
This is going to be right under your house.
That sounds like a nightmare, but it's also very close to yours. You're going to potentially have, you have a damaged house already. It's a blast again, and then project. I mean, that's
progress.
Like two different
and
blasts.
you will read there's no environmental impact. Ask the people on the other side of Riverview Road who houses now flood that never flooded before. what the environmental impact of all those houses up on the hill.
If we could
Yeah.
maybe just have one conversation going on. So we're never gonna get out of here. I think Mary Ann has some
Yeah.
information on our.
You know what, I certainly don't know the blasting chapter inside and out. It's a fairly elaborate chapter. It does require a building permit. I mean, a special blasting permit. It's got, and there's very, very specific requirements for insurance. There has to be insurance with limits of $3 to $5 million. There's an indemnification provision. There's a requirement for a pre-blast survey, where they would go around anyway. So it's pretty elaborate requirements for blasting. I have to say, years since I've, been on the board there, I don't think there's been a blasting permit. So Ed might be a better one to ask, but there are very elaborate provisions in the code. Elaborate provisions to protect neighboring property owners.
Yeah, chipping is usually what's done, so.
Yeah, exactly. Rock chipping is what typically happens.
So, yeah, just to also be clear in my position, I'm, not happy with the plans. I echo what, my neighbors have said about the density issue, the pollution, the traffic, the amount of people coming in. So if it wasn't clear, but blasting is definitely the question I was, most concerned with, but, hearing everything, I'm still completely not supportive of having our small 7-lane street that cannot support this at all, no matter what the plans are, and adding an extra 200 plus people on a, less than 20 people street. So, and I've also, not happy about it.
Ellen, I live on Sycamore Lane. I probably will hear the blasting too, although I'm not right there, but I understand travels. I'm puzzled because having attended a lot of meetings previously, I was under the impression if this type of project was there would be a percentage, and I believe it was 10% had to be affordable housing and the rest could be regular housing. And I don't understand how we got to all affordable housing and what would the tax consequences be versus 4 beautiful homes that we replaced with this, which would be paying probably $300,000 a year in taxes. What are we going to get? We need benefits too to support the fire department and the ambulance department, et cetera. And the garbage, can't forget them, the green tea.
I don't know if you guys have any preliminary thoughts on the economics, but
We're working on a fiscal analysis. Obviously, that'll be part of the studies that the board will have to evaluate. We haven't done that yet, so I don't want to make any commentary about the fiscal analysis right now.
Sure.
Apropos the fiscal analysis and the economics of this, I think that's sort of why I'm saying that the scale of this is too large. I mean, right now the ambulance corps is volunteer. They get no money from the town of Irvington, and now you're adding a great deal, many more people. You're making it harder for them to get to people who are in trouble. So the number of I live in Scarsdale now, and it's a 12-year waiting list for a parking spot in my own building. I mean, obviously it's built a long time ago and not too many people had cars. I wonder if even the number of parking spots for the number of people who are living in these apartments is adequate, let alone visitors, let alone other sorts of services that are going to need to bring vehicles onto a property with this many people living on it. So again, and the problem is you guys are a for-profit company. You need to make money. In order to make money in Irvington, you're going to need to build something this big. And I don't think that it's good for the village. So I'm just saying, yeah, affordable housing is great. We should have it. Irvington should have it. But at a scale like this, it seems not a tenable thing as a for-profit exercise in a village of this size with the sorts of services and what things cost here. It just doesn't seem realistic.
I just ask, what is the access road if it's not Strawberry Lane? Is there another one? Like for trucks and construction vehicles?
If we did not derive access from Strawberry Lane, the only other road in front of us is North Broadway.
So you kind of create an entrance on Broadway to get to it.
That's not what we're proposing. You asked me a question of what other frontage do we have that we could use for access.
Oh, I see. So you probably have to close one of the lanes on Broadway for vehicles.
So they're ultimately, again, tonight's our first appearance, and one of the things we are looking for is feedback.
Sure. Well, it was just a question about the main road, because there's only one road. You can get to Strawberry Lane from the top. I don't know if you guys have ever done that. So,
And answering these questions, we have a long process ahead, as the mayor said.
Sure.
We're going to be coming back with answers.
just the other question is just an environmental impact on like wildlife, things like that. I know it's not really that big a concern, but there's it's like a 4 sort of acre area up there. It's kind of like a Disney movie. You go up there, there's 200 kinds of birds and there's tons of mammals. Nobody likes a deer, but there's a lot of beauty up there. So I'm just curious what that environmental impact might be. Thank you.
There'd be lots of study on the environmental impact. Short answer. Okay.
I have a question about, so once this complex is built, who's going to manage it? Is there, your company will
Our
manage?
company manages everything we build. We have a
Yes.
separate property management company.
Okay,
It's out of our main office. and-
Right.
Yeah.
okay, so you will be, it's all rental,
All
all rental. Okay. And are you going to get tax, benefits from, meaning like, the village will somehow, in other words, I don't know, like the taxes that are currently the owner of this property is paying, you're gonna
We
get,
start that process in on tax payments and working with the assessor, but we also.
uh-huh. Like in general, in this kind of project, is this, some kind of decrease in the taxes that you get for affordable housing, projects like this?
It's based on an income analysis and we can go through that.
Okay.
I guess question is, will a project of this size will decrease the town taxes or increase? Will we have to pay additional taxes because of this project, or will our taxes
So
decrease?
We've looked at many of these projects and they've all been revenue positive for the municipalities and the school districts.
I would like to actually second that. I think affordable housing makes sense. Okay, but this is very.
Sorry, anybody at home? Yes. Barry Grabart.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Barry Graubart, 11 Sycamore Lane in Irvington. So obviously there's a lot more to learn, but as a starting point, just on background, we know there are some really large plots in the village and they're going to come up in the coming years. Some of them are already on the market. And while, some people are trying, hope to keep the villages as it's not realistic. I look at neighboring communities like Tarrytown, Dobbs, Hastings. They've got these bustling downtown environments. And I know we're trying to do more for our own Main Street. And I'm wondering, looking at things we can do to bring that same kind of sense of dynamism and activity. The lack of affordable housing is a huge problem in Westchester and through the river towns. And I know the steps, the 10% set asides just aren't enough to make a real impact. So, I'm really excited by this. The plan the developers described today, I'm sure it'll have to have tweaks along the way. But this has the opportunity to bring affordability and diversity to our community in ways that no other plan that I've seen has. This seems like a really well thought through plan that would make Irvington a more vibrant community. So, really excited to see the next steps on as the plan is developed. Thank you.
Anybody else, Larry? Let's try to get everybody at home first. And then we'll go back to the second time.
Hi, everyone. This is Adi Bloom. I'm on 7 Irving Place, which abuts Strawberry Lane. We have a couple young kids and a lot of animals. So certainly supportive of affordable housing to start. Also, I'm very happy to hear that this is only in the first inning. So I echo the concerns that my neighbors have expressed. Certainly the blasting is a concern. Most important for me is traffic, and I understand a lot more work needs to go into this, but I just can't envision how whether it's 150 or 200 additional people can fit in this space, given just the constraints as it is today. For all those who live here, how traffic gets backed up when high school, middle school gets, people are dropped off and are picked up, and the traffic backs up all the way to this property as it is, let alone having so many more cars coming in and out during rush hour. I also echo the fact that, a question that I had is it envisioned that Strawberry Lane becomes a 2-lane street? Right now, it's pretty much one way, except for the folks who live on Strawberry Lane. There's a turnaround Abbott House and goes over to Riverview. So what's envisioned in terms of Strawberry Lane?
So we don't have all the answers tonight. Your code, as part of the MFO zoning, specifically talks about Strawberry Lane, and for us to provide certain traffic studies as part of this process, as well as contemplate improvements. I know everybody wants answers tonight, but we're not going to lie to you. If we don't have them, we're going to be honest and tell you we don't, but we're going to do the studies. And as our next steps and as we progress down the road, we are going to do those studies. And as part of the conversation with the village, both the village board, planning board, if improvements are needed based on the traffic analysis is done, we're going to be having those conversations. Tonight, we don't have all the answers.
I'm not on the board. One suggestion is to start with that, because this is a major constraint, and it's potentially a project killer, because just the space doesn't permit that many cars. So, before spending a lot of money, I would suggest you start with that as a first principle. Just my advice.
I think traffic was the first thing I brought up. So I think everyone's aware that it's already a difficult traffik area before we do anything. So that's the biggest concern that I had coming into this. So I agree.
We do have a traffic engineer on board as part of the team. They are doing their work in the background, and we just don't have the answers for you tonight.
Yeah, I think also
we hear you.
Some of it obviously would be a breakdown of age groups and things like that. If it's, you have a lot of seniors who may be retired, maybe they have during typical rush hours or
AM peak.
Yeah.
Work hours.
Yeah. So
All that's part of the full analysis.
Would you guys have any influence in getting a traffic light at the corner of Strawberry Lane? Because crossing Riverview Road from Riverview Road to Broadway is almost impossible. I actually cross over to High School Road because it's the only way I can cross during many times of the day now. And Strawberry Lane won't be very different. And if you're going to have seniors or children or people who are handicapped, a lot of times in affordable housing like we have over the library, a lot of those people have physical problems. They literally would have to run across Broadway. And without a traffic light, it will be increasingly dangerous. So I'm just wondering if you have clout with the state to eventually get a traffic light there.
That's a great question. Truth, we don't. The New York State DOT has rules and regs for almost everything you want to do on the state highway. With respect to traffic lights, they have what's called a warrant analysis. And you have to meet certain norms. It's not an influence thing. It's this is what, we trigger these nine things, and then you have to put a light in. The state does not look at the pipe or lights it on the roads. They have a very different mentality about that thing.
It was very difficult to get it to high school.
I know, it took years.
Almost a decade.
And that's the only way I can cross Broadway these days because I'm slow.
But I'm like you.
We have 9 people online.
9 people. Okay, let's try to get this.
If you could state your name, I'd appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Allison Lang. I live on Riverview Road. I studied architecture for 9 years. Some would call them doctors. I studied architecture. I got my Master of Architecture from Washington University in St. Louis, home of Pruitt-Igoe. For anyone who doesn't know what that is, it would be a good precedent to look up for high density, low income housing. But I'm certainly never opposed to low income housing. I think it's great. I have young children, would love them to be exposed to a higher rate of diversity in their school. However, I think the scale of this is problematic. And more importantly than anything, I think we have to think of how this property is viewed from the top of the hill at Riverview Road all the way to the bottom. People in this community have really put a lot of effort into having beautiful properties and being in a beautiful place. And when I see those flat roofs, I want to know, is there any sort of precedent for what that actually will look like from the top of the hill and the bottom of the hill? It's really hard for me to imagine some of these details. And I know you're in the preliminary stages, but I really hope that whatever you do, based on feasibility, if it's even feasible, that we work a little bit harder on these aesthetics, because some things, are a bit incoherent in terms of the style and the detailing at this point. So just, want to make sure that those things are a little bit more considered.
Jan Blair.
Jen? Go back to Jen. Go to the next one. Felix Lurie.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
You can, yep.
Hey, how are you? Yeah, so Felix Lurie. I live on Ardsley Avenue, so not nearly as close to this proposed development as most of the people speaking. I'll be quick. I was just hoping at the next meeting a little bit more written information could be shared about the income ranges for the units. I think someone asked kind of a similar question that I had, which is, it seems like, as I recall, when we talked about this project, we were going to look for units at like 80% of AMI and 100% of AMI. And it sounds like this project was going to be at much lower ranges. And I was just wondering if it was possible to see those numbers, and then maybe we might have, comments to it, and whether we could have some more moderately priced units versus all affordable.
We'll have a chart at the next meeting to show the breakdown of the ends and the income averages, certainly.
Great, thanks so much. And then I apologize again. I'm sorry, I'm going to repeat someone else's question. I think, Brian, you said there was a fiscal analysis that's been done or will be done. I'm sorry, I just couldn't hear about, the effect on taxes. Will be done. Okay, never mind. Okay, so that'll come later. Okay, thanks so much.
Cameron Saliani.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, great. Hi, everybody. My name is Kamran. I'm a lifelong resident of Irvington. And I know this town like the back of my hand. I grew up here and I love it here. I gotta say, when growing up, one of the most detrimental things to Irvington was the fact that everyone in the school either looked like me or was similar to me. And I didn't realize that till I got out of the school district and went to college. And I thought, wow, I benefit so much more from having diversity in this town, or I would have. And affordable housing, I mean, it's got to happen here. I'm 27. I've been here for 24 years of that 27, and we need it. And sometimes you got to just do it, because I had a house next door. We had 3 years of construction in our home next door. It was, and yes, of course, it's a pain at times, but there's a wonderful family that lives there now, and it's, changed their life, and now they can appreciate Irvington and all of its beauty. And just to imagine a group of people, I know a lot of young people that are obsessed with the river towns, and they're from Brooklyn, New York, Manhattan, whatever. Oh my God, I would love to live there. Can't even begin to fathom it at that moment. And God, the benefits we would have to having all different types of people, different age groups, things like that. it would be wonderful. And maybe an incentive for folks that are living around there, that would be good. I wish we kind of had that. Thoroughness is great, and, you know, answering questions and whatnot. But, you know, I hope people have an open mind, and for all their doubts, they maybe have some questions how we can make this better. You know, instead of just kiboshing the whole thing, because then you just keep putting it back off and off and off, and then eventually it just disappears. So I think if, you know, there's an incentive or something like that, that could help ease the stress of it as well. But I love the idea of affordable housing. Looks great. Thank you.
Tom Thacker.
Hi, Tom Thacker, 14 North Buckout Street. I can be heard, right?
Yes, I can hear you, Tom.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I just never know how these things work. Anyway, I'm speaking on behalf of the Irvington's Housing Committee, a committee currently composed of 7 community volunteers, all of whom are appointed by the village board. And the mission of the Housing Committee is, in essence, to encourage the creation of affordable housing in the community and to engage the community in support of the development of such housing. We previously met with the principals of Wilder Bolter Partners to discuss this development, and came to the unanimous conclusion that the broad contours of this proposal offer a wonderful fit for our community. This firm has a proven track record of building affordable housing in Westchester, and its developments are well built, architecturally pleasing, and meet the highest environmental standards. The Housing Committee strongly believes that in a time of rising real estate values and higher cost of living, a development such as this would substantially benefit the social and economic vibrancy of our village. So as this proposal moves forward, the Housing Committee looks forward to engaging with Wilder Bolter, the village board, and the community to address issues and concerns that might arise regarding this project and its impacts. And that's it.
Thanks, Tom. Who's next there? Get Jen up again.
I'll get to the end. Kay O'Keefe.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. So I live on South Buckout Street. I'm a long-term resident of Irvington. I would like to thank the board for passing the resolution supporting affordable housing. And I speak on behalf of myself and Lisa again right now, who had to drop off, but she had attended the meeting up until this point. We agree with Peter, Pat, Kaleem, and Tom. We are very strongly supportive of affordable housing in our community. And 80% AMI is not really affordable, especially if we're thinking about addressing the workers who work in Irvington. They can't afford to live here. Irvington has become much more expensive over the last 20 years. When my kids went to school in Irvington 30 years ago, the children of village workers did go to Irvington schools, and they did live in Irvington. This plan looks exceptional to me. I think that it's wonderful. I think many valid questions have been raised tonight, and I think that the developers are experienced with this, and I think that they can answer those questions that really pertain to the possibility of building affordable housing in that area, such as the access, the blasting, the traffic. I think all of those are valid concerns. I would also like to say that the beauty of Irvington is from nature, and it doesn't belong to the people who got here first. The beauty of Irvington belongs to everyone, and we should certainly have affordable housing and add to the diversity of our community, because it only makes Irvington a richer place to live. Thank you.
Laura McSpadden.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura McSpadden. I live on 290 South Buckout Street.
And I just wanted to speak strongly in favor of having affordable housing in Irvington. This proposal looks phenomenal to me. I am so excited to see truly affordable housing. 30% of AMI is a remarkable thing, and I'm really happy to hear that as part of this development. And it really seems like a generational opportunity to me for our town to invest in affordable housing in a way that we're not going to have this kind of opportunity very often. And I think we are a very creative bunch of people. There have been a lot of issues raised, and I think we can figure them out to make this possible and to transform what's possible in our town and make it a truly welcoming place that everyone can be part of. So thank you for all the hard work from the Housing Committee, from the board, from this developer. I really am excited to see where this goes.
David Schwartz.
Good evening. I live at 100 West. I've lived in Irvington for 9 years and in the river towns for 50 years. And for the past 15 years, I've been working extensively on affordable housing throughout Westchester. I have heard the concerns of neighbors tonight. I have heard those concerns in every affordable housing project that's ever been proposed in Westchester. Sometimes they've defeated the proposal. That would be deeply, deeply sad for the village of Irvington. We need a diversity, an economic diversity, a diversity of backgrounds in our community to enrich it for us and for the future for our children and our grandchildren. Wilder Balder, I've seen them at work. They are the premier developers of affordable housing. They are sensitive to the concerns that neighbors have raised. And I think we should move forward. I urge the board to move forward on this project in the spirit of we're going to get it done and not let the problems defeat us. So thank you very much. And thank you for those who've spoken on behalf of it.
Walter Montgomery.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Thank you. Just want to make sure. There's been a little bit of difficulty. So I live on Strawberry Lane. In fact, I think this development would be not in our backyard, but our front yard virtually. The entrance would be right across from our driveway virtually. And my wife, Marion Gruber, and I come at this from the point of view of being in favor. Can you still hear me, by the way?
Yes. Yes.
But being in favor of affordable housing. I think the devil is probably in some of the details. And by the way, I come at this from the point of view of somebody who was on the planning board for many years in Irvington and on the board of trustees for many years. And I'm chairman of the board at Abbott House. So I know the area, some of the dynamics pretty well. We lived in this house in Irvington, well, for 6 years, but 36 years in Irvington overall. And I think we basically like the concept. I would underscore that in the final analysis, our own view on this is going to depend a lot on how the problems of Strawberry Lane are dealt with, including the access to Strawberry Lane, how usable it is for two-lane traffic. We would prefer to see another entrance, an additional entrance to this development, because we're worried about the congestion on Strawberry Lane. And certainly we're worried about things like, for some other people, school buses. Right now, Irvington school buses, I think, do not use Strawberry Lane. There are small school buses that use it for private school. But in any event, presumably there would be some need for school buses. And Strawberry Lane is not really friendly to large school buses. We're concerned about where visitors would park. I'm concerned about certainly the maintenance of Strawberry Lane. It seems to me the developers would have to commit to the maintenance unless the village is going to take over Strawberry Lane, but that would require, as I recall, some widening of the lane. And by the way, right now, as far as I know, we don't know who owns Strawberry Lane. There have been various legal investigations of that matter. And to my knowledge, no lawyer has yet come up with the answer as to who actually owns it. Abbott House that maintains it. That would not be feasible going forward with this development. Abbott House does not have the funds to maintain this road for heavy usage, to be sure. And I would also emphasize something others have stressed, and that is it's an unsafe road in terms of access to Broadway and coming off Broadway. We need a stoplight there now, arguably, and pedestrian usage is a very, very serious matter. It's unsafe to try to cross Broadway right now. Anyhow, there are a bunch of issues to deal with, including with regard to maintenance, things like drainage. Drainage has been a serious problem in the past. Abbott House paid for some drainage repairs recently. So there are a number of, I think, matters that are related to Strawberry Lane that have to be addressed for us to feel comfortable about this, but we're not at all opposed to this. Frankly, I think as somebody who's a veteran of the planning board, I feel as though this is a soundly conceived development. I mean, there are things to tweak, to be sure, but I don't see serious issues with the development per se. I think the major issues involve Strawberry Lane and Broadway. So we need to be concerned about those issues, which involve, to a great extent, safety. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Walter.
Robert Dotton. Robert?
Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, my name is Robert Dotton. I've been a resident of Irvington for about 39 years. I live in Field Point, and I congratulate the board and WBP partners for this effort to address the concerns of the neighboring residents and of all of the people who are involved. I'm pleased that affordable housing is recognized and welcome in Irvington. I think it's very timely. My children have gone to school here and have left, and they would have benefited from a much more diverse environment. I believe that most of the problems that have been raised are problems that can be solved, just as they might have been solved in the case of Field Point, which is close to the main street and must have faced the same kinds of problems of access and congestion and traffic that would be facing the people who live in this project, and also the people who are nearby. So I'm happy that this project is at least beginning, and I hope that it will continue in the same kind of spirit of goodwill among the citizens of Irvington. And I'm optimistic that the serious concerns will be addressed, and that this will be a great benefit to the people of Irvington and to the culture of Irvington. Thank you.
Try Jan Blair one more time. Sure.
You hear me? I think, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I was on mute before. I couldn't turn it off. I think a lot of people, I agree with a lot of people that made statements this evening. Affordable housing, most people are not, don't object to affordable housing, but I agree with the woman, Mrs. Lang, I think it was, that talked about high density. I think the major problem with this is the high density and the environmental impact. And I agree with the gentleman that said it is the gateway to Irvington. And I think the environmental impact, as far as the open space, the carbon footprint, stormwater is a major issue. Then there's sewer and water hookups, of course. My concern is removal of trees, the landscaping they're doing, and how you, of course, the water has to be retained on site. But I'm concerned about the vehicles and the impact that this is going to have, environmental impact this is going to have on the village. In addition to I know we're not talking about Nevis Labs, but the solar panels on Nevis, it just appears to be that we are losing open space rapidly, and there has been a great effort, as you know, over the years to retain open space. So the density is my biggest objection, not that it's affordable, not that it's rentals, not that it's diverse, but the high density and the environmental impact, it has, the brick house has historic value. And then there is an impact on the village as far as security, because there are many units with a lot of people and things happen. The ambulance, the schools, the garbage, and definitely a stoplight on Broadway, because trying to make a left into or out of this development is going to be very difficult, because it's very difficult now on Broadway. And so that would be another stoplight. So the density is the major thing, and the environmental impact that it's going to have on the community. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it. No more. That's it. Everybody- Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify about another thing about the architecture in terms of the entrances. Am I correct? Three blocks is a single building, and does that mean they each have one single entrance from the outside? And since the site is basically inaccessible by foot, since everyone will be driving in and deliveries all will be coming, by truck or car, are those cars all going to be going underground and then seeking the elevator core from the garage? So they'll be entering the units from an underground elevator core. And how many cores are there per block?
Currently, there are 5 elevator cores, but actually currently there are 3 elevator cores. And then underground parking lot is all connected, so the delivery can actually go into the underground parking lot as well. Each building block has 2 walk-in entrance, and that can be all connected internally.
Entrances? Can you just point them out in the?
Well, it's tiny, but 2 entrances on the west side block is from the main courtyard side. So one coming here, one coming back here. South wing entrance is here. The other entrance up in the middle courtyard. North wing entrance down here. Another entrance is upper level.
So can cars drive up to those entrances?
No, only an emergency car can come in here. So all the cars going to be underground, with underground parking.
You can get to underground of each of those building locations from one location. You don't have to go in.
Right, that's understood. But no one's really going to be using those great entrances except maybe to go out and walk in their courtyards. But you won't be able really to access your apartment by means of those, because you can't get to the site except by car.
Yeah, if you drive, then you're not gonna walk through the courtyard.
Right, okay.
Right.
I got it.
We see the courtyard as an exterior amenity space.
Brian, could I just ask you to make one clarification? When I went on their site, there were 2 applications, one for workforce housing and one for affordable housing. Workforce housing asks where you live, whether you were a volunteer, the fire, ambulance, whether you worked in the village. The affordable housing, as far as I've been told, goes to a lottery. So Irvington residents wouldn't have a priority. Like if your child is graduating college and coming home and you're saying, maybe you can get some affordable housing if you volunteer for the fire department. That's not going to be, that's going to be part of the lottery system. And I don't really quite know how that lottery works. So can you just clarify that for people? Because some of the comments were, this will be great for our municipal workers, but this is not workforce housing. This is all affordable housing. Am I wrong?
No, that's my
Can
understanding.
you just restate the question? Because I don't think people at home can hear. I was listening on my way here.
I think what's the difference? There's two proposals, one for workforce housing, one for affordable housing.
Well, we didn't make two proposals about certain.
No, I was just saying, in your packet online, that you're at your site, I went to some of the other developments you have. And they said, oh, sure. And some of them have workforce housing. And there's a separate application for that. And if you are applying for workforce housing, it asks you if you live in the village that you're applying for, do you work in that village, or you volunteer in that village? And those all, I assume, give you like a credit towards whether you'll be able to get one of those apartments. On the affordable housing application, that's not the case. Affordable housing, as far as I know, goes to a lottery system. Some of the comments made it sound like they are delighted to have this in Irvington because Irvington volunteers, DPW workers, maybe teachers, police will have a possibility of getting some of these, but that would go to a lottery and not necessarily give anybody in Irvington an advantage. Am I wrong?
A lot of what you said is right. So
Okay.
There are certain codes that require, but not required, but there's certain municipalities that require workforce housing.
But this isn't that type of program.
This is affordable housing.
But not with workforce.
With workforce area median incomes, but not with set aside, I think is what you're speaking about.
Right.
For a specific municipality.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that because some of the comments made it sound like they were excited that Irvington residents who are workforce or, volunteer might have an opportunity now to live here, not up in Peekskill or other places that they can't afford.
Right. So what you do, typically is you broadly advertise, and often is the case, many times people that have a connection to certain municipalities will apply. So there'll be a lot of applications from Irvington or the communities around Irvington because people are familiar with that. So to answer your question, you do broadly advertise and you have a lottery.
So you get a number and the number gets pulled out?
Really pulling out of that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, and like if we use the library as the example,
22 apartments, right?
we typically have a handful of Irvington volunteer firefighters who live there just because they apply, and they we don't have people from Montana or Brooklyn typically finding it because after it's widely advertised, after the first year, say, it's I know about that building, so I keep putting my name in. And it's basically, that's how it's typically worked out. It's not guaranteed, and once you take federal money, you can't guarantee. We used to be able to do that for the Burnham building above the library, but it's now you can't do it because once there's federal monies involved, you can't have local preference. So you can't do it.
I just wanted to clarify that for some of the people who made it sound like they thought we could.
Yeah, but I do think that going from about 30 affordable units to almost 100 total, there's probably more of a chance, at least initially, that more people from Irvington could potentially live here.
And you have to meet the income requirements too. So you have a lottery, and then after the lottery, you vet the income and the application so that you're confirming with X amount of apartments for somebody making up to 80% of your median income. You go through that process after the application, after people name that.
It's PJ McCallick, also from Strawberry Lane. You have a pretty well-deserved reputation for being open to community feedback. I just wanted to clarify, does that include meeting with the residents of Strawberry Lane and North Broadway?
Yes.
Okay, great. You can bring a bodyguard or if you want. It's no problem.
Yes.
I also really want to give you a lot of credit for trying to find ways to, first of all, keep the mansion, and then, of course, to show it off as it deserves to be. And I mean, yeah, it's tough on 4 acres. Somebody mentioned Walt Disney earlier, and just one person's feedback, but I think the unfortunate side effect, at least in my eyes, of keeping the mansion, but creating this alley of housing that is clearly a step down from the mansion itself, it makes me think of Walt Disney designing a low security prison. I don't mean to sound harsh, but that is something that I think is more the result of the materials that are being used, right? So it's just like a very soft echo of that house, to the brick and so on. I don't know, I genuinely don't know what the answer to that is, but I just want to bring that up. All right, thank you.
Anybody else? I have one. Okay. Aaron Schatzel.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I've been a resident here for more than 50 years, and I've owned 3 different properties in Irvington. And as a matter of fact, my husband and I, the house that we had, which was off of the lane, which is now part of the the Abbott House Road, but our house was adjacent to that. So I understand the traffic problems also. But I also remember when Wilder Balter put up Chappaqua Crossing, which I still think of as the old Reader's Digest property. And that must have taken over 10 years to work out all the wrinkles on that immense property. And I am so thrilled that Wilder Balter is developing or hopefully developing this property, because not only do they have the experience, but I think they have the integrity and the respect for community. And I know what they're doing up in Terrytown now to preserve the facade of the old YMCA building, although they're developing the whole thing behind that, but just to retain the integrity of the facade on that building shows the respect that they have for the community. And that's why I think that no matter what the concerns are now, they will work them out. Thank you.
Karen?
I just want to thank the village. You spent a lot of time with the rezoning process, and you resolved a number of questions. I think I heard the mayor say earlier that the village came out with a better rezoning plan at the end of the day with all the discussion that occurred. You also supported made a statement in support of affordable housing, which I think the community welcomes. And now you have a serious plan before you that I think deserves more exploration. So I'm just curious what the next steps are from here. Hopefully, I look forward to seeing some of the questions that were asked here about stormwater, sidewalks, those kinds of things addressed. But I'm also really interested to see this proceed. So thank you.
I think it's my turn to say I don't know, but we'll find out. I would envision that you would want to come back and try to preliminarily answer some of the questions. And I actually, we haven't heard from our planning board much either. So I'd like to hear maybe if they have some concerns off the top. I think most of them are online tonight. But
I mean, they haven't raised their hands, so
that's, which is fine. You don't have to tonight. We heard quite a bit.
We have one.
Okay.
Caesar, and Freddie.
Right to the boss, the chairman.
Caesar, you got to unmute.
Maybe just waving to us. There we go. Hello, Caesar. Yeah, just getting some notes together.
Yeah, we're not hearing you, Caesar.
All right, well, I will start my wonderful summation.
Karen Schatzel has a comment.
Call it a continuation.
All right. Let's, Karen?
You're on mute. There you go. Karen? Not exactly a Zoom commercial tonight. No, it's, yeah. Maybe that was an old hand up. What did you do?
Hey, Brian, can I try something?
Sure. You sound, I can hear you. That's a good start.
Now, I was just going to say, I think if it isn't clear to the public, they should understand that this presentation to the Board of Trustees and the Planning Board tonight is a mainly to let the public know, and that for the most part, these aren't Board of Trustees decisions. That most of the decisions were made, when you came up with the zoning, and there will be a special permit, but that's required that's given by the Planning Board, not by the Board of Trustees, and they'll do the site plan review and whatever. There's a couple things they may have to ask from the Board of Trustees, but people should know that the main application will be before the Planning Board.
Which we intend to do in the next month or two.
That's a great point, Marianne. Thank you for bringing that up, as always.
Yeah.
I do think that, it was a good reminder. I think if I said we were in spring training, I think that the residents and the commenters came with their mid-season form. You didn't have to talk about what affordable housing is, that it's not Section 8 housing. I think the comments were overall very helpful. I think they're constructive. I think everyone had a great sense of decorum. And I think that's the way the zoning frankly came along. It went from having, hotels and conference centers and all these things. And we ended up having just, multifamily housing, and with affordable obviously being our wish. There were times when frankly, we weren't sure if it was viable to have a proposal that shows that those 2 years of kind of working on zoning, which I think is probably a record in Irvington, if not in a lot of places. It just seems almost like ridiculous, but a lot of that was public input. Hopefully that long process helps us with this process. But I think, the thing that I heard even from people that didn't necessarily like the plan was that they were pro affordable housing, which I think is a big shift. When I first got on the board about 13, 14 years ago, affordable housing itself wasn't supported. So I think that's a sea change. And I think that allows us to have a intelligent adult conversation about the project and not about affordable housing and the scare tactics with affordable housing. So I'm very impressed with everyone tonight. I think there are definitely some issues that we need addressed. I think, the traffic is, I brought it up first, so I'll bring it up first again. I wasn't persuaded that something was bigger. Strawberry Lane's existing condition mitigation, I think, is huge. Financial impacts, aesthetics, pedestrian access. I think there's a lot of to-dos for you guys. But I think overall, as a first, salvo of a project, it was thoughtful. It was potentially viable with mitigations. Underground parking, I think, is always something we thought would be great. I don't think we necessarily thought. I know Mark always talked about it as getting rid of even the current existing parking lots there now. So there's, I think although this is obviously dense for Irvington, I think that what's there now is fairly dense as well as far as coverage anyway. Obviously not. So I think it's just, and it could be a lot more attractive to look at from Strawberry Lane, frankly, from Broadway than what's there now, especially if you continue to see the mansion, which I also appreciate the fact that you understood the importance of that, because it does make the site much harder to deal with. If it was an empty piece of property or just an old dilapidated house that didn't have a historical value, it would be a lot easier. So I appreciate that as well. Again, we're going to look for public impact, or public impact. We're looking for public input. I think it was also nice that we didn't hear that this was done in the middle of the night and we try to rush through the project, which is usually what we hear, even though we're in the pre-innings. So tell your friends, people that are here, obviously got out to Strawberry Lane. I live on Riverview, so my house backs up on a Abbott house, so I'm directly impacted as well. I'll make sure all my neighbors know. But tell everyone, it's hard for us to reach people until, a year and a half from now when you're going for final approval, and then people said they didn't know about it. So the fact that we can get as early input as possible, and I do urge you, I know someone asked if you'll meet with the Strawberry Lane residents and the residents of North Broadway. I think your firm is famous for that. I think it's also, I think you're honestly listening, and I think you want this to go well. You said that in your opening, that this is a project you want to be proud of and you want us to be proud of. And us doesn't mean that the village board or the planning board, it means the residents. And I think that's what we're hoping for as well. That this is a project that we look back in 10 years and say, Irvington is so much better for having this, similar to Field Point, which I remember I was a kid when that went up. People were complaining about that because yes, it was wooded area. I remember I was so upset that they were taking that down. And to me, that had such a positive impact on the village. And I can only imagine if we didn't have the co-ops that we have just to the north of this project. The friends I've made over the years, the people that I've gotten to know are often the backbone of the community. And I think this could be another piece of that pie. So you're not done, but I think you came with a good opening with something that we can work with, and you can work with the most impacted residents. I think the blasting issue is an interesting one. So as you get more information about that, that's obviously kind of front of list as well. I didn't mention in my little summary, but I think you've heard a wider range of concerns, and hopefully you can address a lot of them. But I think overall, I think we're lucky to have your firm as one of the ones. This isn't someone from California who's doing their first project in New York. You guys, we could drive to Chappaqua and find you. You've been here, you've invested in Westchester, and to have the possibility of potentially doubling the number of affordable units in Irvington, I think can be very impactful. So thank you all very much. We look forward to seeing more of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I will make a motion to open a public hearing to consider a local law amending the zoning code to permit outdoor dining for restaurants. Aye. I would say this is kind of a development coming out of the pandemic where we were doing everything we could to aid restaurants and businesses in general, but specifically we'll give everybody a minute.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully everyone's happy with this.
Hey, we don't want you to go lonely.
I'm sure you'll go home and dial in. Quite enough now. So we basically, during the pandemic, we wanted to work with the businesses however we could to allow them to survive. And now we want to continue to do that, help them earn back some of that money. For a long time, we didn't have any sidewalk dining at all in Irvington. That was, at least when I was on the board, that was something we passed. I think it works well. Obviously, there's challenges on Main Street with, it being a crazy steep hill, depending on where you are on Main Street. So it limits the amount that you can have. But there are other examples where they were super creative, like River City Grill, down on the waterfront. MP Taverna has that little one that's kind of permanent. They said, since they couldn't dine inside, they have a little tent outside. These are all things that we want them to be creative and be able to safely continue to do this. So we asked the building inspector to let us know what we had to do to empower him to work with the businesses, with the restaurants, I should say. And I think you reached out to most of them. I think Larry did as well. And we got their feedback. And this is, I believe, the law that they wanted passed, I hope anyway. It's beneficial to them, and it's, to me, not that great a change for all of us, except to allow us to have great restaurants and to eat outside, which I think is a win-win. Mary Ann, tell me what the law says.
Yeah, the right now, as you know, you can have outdoor dining and under the sidewalk dining law. Well, there's a provision in the code that says that all permitted uses in both the business district and the railroad district shall be carried on in buildings fully enclosed on all sides. So that if you've got, it would not allow you, if you had a backyard, if a restaurant has a backyard, to have dining in the backyard, because then it wouldn't be in a building fully enclosed on all sides. So what this does is it fixes that section of the code, both in the business district and the railroad district, to read except for the sidewalk cafes and except for restaurants, all permitted uses, whether principal or accessory, shall be carried on in buildings fully enclosed on all sides. And then parallel provision for the railroad district. We didn't need a provision for the waterfront district because it's actually allowed in the waterfront district. In buildings, business only in buildings fully enclosed on all sides is not a provision in the waterfront district. So that didn't have to be fixed.
Any question? My only question to Larry was, were the restaurants out? And he said yes. So
Yeah, well, he just wanted direction, of course, but
Yeah, sure.
the restaurant, there was really only 3 or 4 restaurants that were affected. I spoke to them all. And, they're pleased with the direction the board went.
I mean, clearly, we want to support the restaurants. That's the number one reason here, but I also think that we're supporting the people who dine here because, in this COVID environment, people prefer to eat outdoors. So I think we're really helping everybody.
Great. So any public comments? As I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Resolved to adopt the local law amending the zoning code to permit outdoor dining in restaurants. I'll make a motion if I can have a second. All in favor? Aye. All right. Resolved to adopt the local law amending the village code to increase the veterans exemption limits. I think that the name of the local law kind of is very self-explanatory. I think my only that the state just increased, I believe it was the state that increased the limits first time in a while. And we want to do it kind of as soon as possible as a board. A small group of veterans that we have in town, we want them to stay in town, be able to stay in town. We'd love other veterans to move into town, frankly. So we are treating them special, but they are special. So that's, that's kind of this in a nutshell.
Larry, can you remind us when this is going to take effect?
Yeah, so it will not be for this year's village taxes. It would be for the following year, next year. The timing of the assessment rolls is such that the assessment roll we use is actually about 9 months.
21.
Yeah, it's about 9 months behind. It's behind. So, but the impact, I think we had circulated earlier and talked about at the last meeting, it's about a little less than $15,000 of lost revenue, if you will, which is fairly small.
Impactful for someone, for the resident. Yeah. Any other questions? Oh, did I open it?
I don't think you
I
opened
don't think I
it.
opened the public law. I would make a motion to open the public hearing. Second. Anyone from the public? I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. Like that, second. All in favor? Aye. Resolved to adopt the local law amending the village code to increase the veterans exemption limits. I'll make a motion if I can have a second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Miscellaneous hardware and supplies. I think this is another self-explanatory one. Anyone have any questions on this or?
Yeah.
Whereas sealed bids were received and opened on April 13, 2022 at 11 a.m. at the Village Hall as follows: Irvington Hardware, 10% discount on a 1-by-1 basis, 20% on case bulk quantities, special pricing for products purchased in pallet form and not generally stocked. Reader's true value of hardware, 20% discount off retail. Whereas the village administrator reviewed the bid submitted and determined that the bidders are in order and responsive to specifications. Now therefore be it resolved that the village administrator is authorized to execute a purchase contract for miscellaneous hardware and supplies with each of the suppliers on the terms outlined above. I'll make a motion if I can have a second. Second. All in favor? Aye. Next up is the written contract for auto parts. Another interesting one.
So, yeah.
Whereas sealed bids were received and opened on April 13, 2022 at 11 a.m. at Village Hall as follows: Red's Auto and Truck Parts, discount off retail, 5%. Schilt Ford Lincoln, list minus 32% for Ford parts only. IEH Auto Parts LLC doing business as Auto Plus Auto Parts. Reference price less 61%. Whereas the village administrator reviewed the bids submitted and determined all bids were responsive to the specification, and whereas Essential Garage needs to purchase parts for a variety of different vehicle makes and models, possessing a designation of multiple suppliers, now therefore be it resolved that the village administrator is authorized to execute a purchase contract for auto parts with each of the suppliers in the terms outlined above. I'll make a motion, if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Don't lose momentum now, we're almost there. Change orders for the Madison Park Playground renovation project. You want to talk about these, Larry?
Yeah,
This is very small.
Yeah, exactly. You can see they're fairly small, just some cleanup items at the end of the project, frankly. We're looking to close out the paperwork on that project.
It's like 0.0001% of the budget, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, things like fence, there were modifications to fences and some last minute things in the project, so.
Anyone have any questions? Resolved to approve change orders 22, 23, and 24 in a total amount of $3,745 for the Madison Park Playground renovation project, and to authorize the village administrator to execute said change orders. I'll make a motion if I can have a second. Second. All in favor? Aye. The board standing committees and offices, trustee liaison. Mark, from the screen.
Hi, how are you? I have not much to say today, but reminding people about the Arbor Day event coming up, which you've already mentioned, and looking forward to that. And that's about it for now.
Okay.
Doc?
So summer is getting ready again. And as I said earlier, there are applications available both for summer day camp positions. You must be 16 plus for counselors, specialist supervisors, and teacher positions. I think the teachers probably need to be more than 16. And then Teamscape. Applicant must be a current high school senior or college student. There's also sign up for day camp and for Teamscape. Joe asked me to remind people Teamscape is filling up fast. 75% of the spots are already taken. So there's 10 spots left in each of the two halves of Teamscape. So if you're thinking about it, you should get your name in there. Now accepting group permit requests for all parks as the bathrooms are open. Adult tennis classes are now available. Adult softball league is starting. Anyone who's interested in being part of the Memorial Day parade scheduled for May 30th, please contact Nina Dawson or Joe Archino. Contact Joe if you're interested in assisting the Irvington Beautification Committee with their spring plantings on Main Street, the Irvington Woods Park invasive vine barberry bush removal. The next one is scheduled for Saturday, April 30th. If you know of any senior citizen in need of help, please contact Joan Armstrong at 914-494-0214. That's it.
Great. Mitch?
No real update on the theater since the last meeting, although I just want to make a note that I was contacted by an outside arts organization looking to, they're doing events in multiple places, and they were wanting to know about Irvington, and I brought in Greg Allen to that discussion. I think that's something we should always remember, that the theater isn't just the physical structure that's standing over us, but also we always say, we say it's the cultural heart of the river towns. It's not just a marketing slogan, right? So we have those resources. So I would hope anyone else got contacted about the potential of something like that to really reach out to Craig, because there's a lot of expertise that can be added there. The library, as I say every time, please go to the library website. They have an array of events open to people both in person and online. So we'll check that out. The school board report I have is that they're working on their budget. Tax rate will likely decrease. The board's going to adopt it on Tuesday, and there'll be multiple opportunities to learn more through public presentations, as you can see on the district's website, including the board of trustees meeting on Monday, May 2nd. Also remember that the election for the budget and the school board is May 17th. Be aware that unlike past years, the voting is not in the Main Street School auditorium. It's in the Main Street School gym in a separate building down the hill a little bit. So make sure you're going to the right place for that. The district has already begun the search for the next high school principal. Public forums are being held to solicit feedback to create a leadership profile that will inform the search. And finally, due to the second phase of the capital project, there will be limited access to the MSHS middle school, high school campus this summer. That's all I've got.
So the Green Policy Task Force is gonna have Celebrate Trails Day on the Old Croton Aqueduct. It's Saturday, April 23rd. It's from 1 to 3:30 p.m. And everyone is welcome for either part of the time or all of the time. They're encouraging people to go and go with their families. I'm going with my own family. So that's a good fun event. BPW and the water department, there's a long list of things. Never ceases to amaze me, all the things that they do, and let us know. And then you already mentioned it, but Chief Pignatelli also wanted to thank everyone for showing up for Dave Walsh. It was really a nice event with people really, I think is a testament to who he is as a police officer and a detective, and his how much people really love him in this town. So it was nice that people showed up.
Excellent. Village Administrator's report.
So this Thursday, apropos of some of the discussions tonight, the mayors of the Greenberg villages are meeting, and one of the topics on their agenda is the status of the ambulance service in the town and the villages. So the mayors are want to explore that a bit further, and all of the captains from the ambulance corps have been invited to that meeting. So it'll be interesting to see them show up. They've all been invited, I think, and I understand they've all committed to coming, so okay. Should be a good discussion.
That's it.
Yep.
Village Clerk Treasurer's report.
No report tonight.
Village Attorney's report.
No report.
Well done. It was very dramatic. Public comment?
Online.
Anything for you?
No.
So that being said, I will.
Yes.
Exactly. For the applicant. I will make a motion to adjourn if I got a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Close. Carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.